Have you ever felt it? That sting of judgment from unseen eyes? The weight of a label you never chose, a story about you, written by everyone but you? We've all tasted that bitter pill, haven't we? That moment your truth is twisted, repackaged, and sold to the highest bidder of public opinion. They called it a love triangle, but for years, it felt more like a global witch trial, broadcast in real time. Selena Gomez, Hailey Bieber, Justin Bieber, the man perpetually caught in the middle. The verdict? It was swiftly delivered, not by a jury of peers, but by millions, perhaps billions, armed with keyboards and an insatiable hunger for drama, millions who had no access to the truth. What if the most viral, most dissected, most emotionally charged celebrity saga of the last decade wasn't the scandal we were all force-fed? What if the narrative that carved the internet in two, the one that had you picking a team, was built on a foundation of sand? A collective misunderstanding? Imagine a story with no true villain, just human beings, victims of a narrative spun out of control. You've seen the headlines. You've dissected the Instagram stories. You've scrolled endlessly through the TikTok theories. But today, we're not just scratching the surface. We're going deeper. Because what if the real her side of the story isn't about one woman, but about the story itself, and how it held us all captive? This wasn't just a breakup saga whispered about in high school hallways. No, this detonated like a cultural moment, an explosive referendum on love, loyalty, and womanhood played out on the floodlit stage of the internet. Hashtag Team Selena versus hashtag Team Hailey. These weren't just hashtags, they were battle cries. Digital trenches were dug. Tweets became weapons, fan edits turned into propaganda, and public silence was read like a guilty plea. Remember that feeling? The pressure to choose, to condemn, to participate? But beneath the clickbait, beyond the curated perfection of Instagram grids and the carefully coded captions, what was the real emotional temperature? What was the unseen, unheard, untold emotional fallout for the actual people living inside this hurricane? Today, we attempt to silence the cacophony. No gossip mongering, no fueling the fire with fresh assumptions. Instead, we seek understanding. We're peeling back the layers of a story that says more about us, the audience, than it perhaps ever did about them. How did we get here? And more importantly, what did we miss in our rush to judgment? Part 1. The genesis of the storm. Every storm has its origin point. This one began, as so many captivating pop culture narratives do, with a seemingly perfect love story. Selena and Justin. Young love, first love, played out under the relentless gaze of global media. Their on-again, off-again romance became a serial drama for a generation. We were invested. Their heartbreaks felt like our own headlines and heartbreaks. It was a fairy tale the world felt it had co-authored. Then, the narrative shifted. Then came Hailey. But let's pause here. This isn't about a simple timeline of who dated whom. This is about the collision of timing, perception, and a fanbase already mourning a fairy tale they believed was their own. Hailey didn't just enter a relationship, she stepped onto a stage where the previous act had ended abruptly, leaving the audience heartbroken and demanding an encore that wasn't coming. Think about it, Hailey entered the picture when the wounds were still fresh. For millions, she wasn't just a new partner. She was perceived, instantly, as the replacement. A symbol of what was lost. And in the digital age, that perception, however unfair, spread like wildfire. The internet, that double-edged sword, did what it does best, and often worst. It turned speculation into fact, and discomfort into war. Nuance was the first casualty. Questions weren't asked. Conclusions were leaped to. And a question began to form, unspoken but potent, in the echo chambers of social media. Was this new chapter an authentic story of new love, or was it a betrayal inked in the fresh scars of a romance the world wasn't ready to let go of? So, the stage was set. The players were cast, often against their will. But was Hailey ever given a chance? Or was she, from day one, destined to be the antagonist in a script she didn't write, the villain in someone else's cherished, albeit fractured, love story? Part 2. The weight of silence. Hailey's perspective. For a long time, Hailey didn't speak much. In a world that demands constant commentary, where every celebrity is expected to be an open book, her silence was loud. It became a vacuum, and vacuums, as we know, are quickly filled. And in a world where silence is treated as admission, that quiet became deafening. It was interpreted, dissected, and often condemned. Imagine this: you're in your early 20s, navigating a new, serious relationship, a marriage, under an unprecedented global microscope. And every day, you're bombarded. Not with congratulations, but with accusations. Imagine being 25 and waking up to thousands of strangers calling you a homewrecker. Not once, but relentlessly. Daily. For years. Every eyebrow raise, every photo, every outfit, interpreted, dissected, weaponized. A casual glance becomes shade. A shared moment with her husband becomes a calculated PR move. How does one even begin to exist authentically under that kind of pressure? Then, in a 2022 podcast, years into the storm, Hailey offered her perspective. She said, regarding Selena, "I respect her. There's no drama personally." A clear, concise statement. But then she added the crucial context, "But the internet loves a narrative." And isn't that the crux of it? The internet doesn't just love a narrative, it demands one. Preferably a juicy one. A simple story of boy meets girl meets boy, people move on doesn't trend. She didn't steal anyone. She fell in love, legally married, and stayed silent out of respect. She chose dignity in silence, perhaps hoping the storm would pass. But silence doesn't trend. Accusations do. And the accusations, amplified by millions, created a feedback loop of outrage that was impossible to ignore, and for her, perhaps impossible to escape. The narrative was already written, an indelible digital tattoo. While one woman was being painted as the villain, what was the reality for the other woman at the heart of this relentless storm? What was Selena going through while all this unfolded? Did the narrative serve her, or was she too, trapped within its confines? Part 3. Selena's Storm and Strength. Selena Gomez, too, was navigating her own profound battles. Her struggles with physical and mental health were public, raw, and deeply relatable to millions. She was, in many ways, an open wound, and her vulnerability became a source of strength for many who saw their own struggles reflected in hers. In her own powerful words, she offered a beacon: "If you're broken, you don't have to stay broken." A message of resilience that resonated far beyond any celebrity gossip. Throughout the years of intense fan-driven conflict, she rarely addressed Hailey directly. But when the vitriol, often enacted in her name, reached fever pitches, she did step in. More than once. She stated unequivocally, "No one should be treated with hate or bullying. I don't stand for that." Think about the complexity of that position. Her own fanbase, fiercely loyal, often weaponized their devotion. For her to publicly call for an end to the hate directed at Hailey was an act that risked alienating those very fans. It was a plea for decency in a digital world starving for drama. So if one woman was pleading for respect and stating no drama, and the other was publicly denouncing the hate, where did the idea of this epic bitter feud truly live? It seems this wasn't a feud in the traditional sense between them. It was perhaps a false dichotomy, a forced choice presented by the internet. Two women, each enduring their own immense pressures, navigating the same storm, caught in the eye of a media hurricane largely whipped up by external forces. If both women were, in their own ways, signaling that the war was one-sided manufactured, or at least not originating from them directly, so why didn't the hate stop? What machinery kept this engine of animosity running at full throttle for so many years? Part 4. The invisible hand of the social media war. The hate didn't stop because for many, fans weren't fighting for justice. They were fighting for identity. This is the complex, often uncomfortable truth of modern stan culture. When your sense of self becomes deeply intertwined with a celebrity, their perceived triumphs feel like your own, and their perceived slights or losses can feel like deeply personal attacks. Parasocial relationships, those one-sided connections we form with public figures, can blur the lines, turning viewers into jurors, and every post became evidence. It was a perfect storm of confirmation bias. One TikTok, one brow-lifting emoji, one out-of-context video, and a narrative was born. Or more accurately, an existing narrative was reinforced. Algorithms, designed to show us more of what we engage with, created echo chambers where hashtag Team Selena only saw evidence of Hailey's villainy, and any hashtag Team Hailey whispers were drowned out or perceived as attacks. Social media isn't a mirror, it's a magnifying glass. It amplifies, it distorts, it takes the smallest human imperfection and projects it onto a skyscraper. And under it, even silence screams. Every unliked post, every perceived glance away, every vacation photo taken too soon, it all became kindling for a fire that many seem to enjoy warming their hands by, forgetting the real people at its center. Part 5. The Unveiling, the Truth We Ignored. We've journeyed through the origins, the perspectives, the relentless machinery of the social media war. But now, we arrive at what might be the most unsettling part of this entire saga. Not a plot twist in the Hollywood sense, but a quiet human revelation that's been there all along, obscured by the noise. Here's the truth. The triangle we obsessed over may have never existed. Not in the way we consumed it. Not with the villains and victims we so eagerly assigned. There was likely no betrayal in the operatic soap opera way it was painted. No stolen love, snatched by a calculating rival. What if instead, there was just the messy, quiet truth of three people trying to move forward with their lives, under a spotlight so harsh it would make any of us falter? Selena was healing, from heartbreak, from illness, from immense public pressure. Hailey was learning how to be a wife, how to navigate fame on an entirely new level, how to withstand a global onslaught of negativity. Justin was growing, attempting to build a new life while the ghosts of his past were constantly resurrected by the public. But we needed a plot twist, a villain, a hero. We, the consumers of stories, often crave simplicity, clear-cut morality. And in our hunger for drama, we missed the humanity. We missed the quiet dignity. We missed the possibility that these were just people, doing their best, like the rest of us, only their lives were a global spectacle. What if the real shocker is how readily we accepted a manufactured narrative over a far more relatable, far more human truth? So now that we've journeyed through the layers, past the headlines, beyond the warring factions, let me ask you this, and be honest with yourself. For all those years, were you ever hearing the truth, or just the loudest voices? Did the narrative shape your reality, or did you seek out the nuance? Comment below. Did peeling back these layers change how you see this drama, or perhaps, how you view other online narratives? What's one thing you'll take away when the next scandal erupts? This isn't just about Selena, Hailey, and Justin. It's about us. It's about how we consume media, how we participate in online culture, and the narratives we choose to amplify. If you're tired of manufactured feuds and hungry for stories that seek understanding over outrage, then subscribe and hit that notification bell. Because our next breakdown dives even deeper into the fascinating, and sometimes frightening world of why parasocial fandoms keep rewriting reality, and what it costs all of us. Let's not just consume the narrative. Let's question it. Let's understand it. Let's rewrite the narrative together.